Hello and welcome to Fueling Around with me, Jason Plato, and my very own transmission failure. It's Dave Vitti.
Fueling Around is powered by Adrian Flux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help save you money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance.
Now, don't forget to press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode, or press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. Dave, podcasts, I've got it now.
Podcasts. Absolutely.
Yes,
you know, it's now series 10 and at long last you can now pronounce and understand the name of these things that we actually do on a weekly basis, which is all good, and we're making progress. How are you? You looking good? You looking well?
I'm all right. It's warm.
It's warm
today.
Sun is shining. Weather is sweet. Yeah. You know, makes me want to move my dancing feet, Jason. You know, I think as the song says.
It makes me want to go to the pub garden, if I'm honest.
Does it?
Yeah,
maybe we should schedule in an urgent Fueling Around AGM in an alfresco setting with some suitable requirements. And then we can maybe...
I'll make a diary entry.
Okay, fine, good. Anyway, enough of that. We have a special guest to welcome onto the show today, do we not?
We do, and he's a gentleman who's created his own online automotive TV channel. It's a bit like early Top Gear, but without all the staff, and its popularity is growing on a daily basis. The channel's called Candy Showroom, and its creator is here today. So please welcome Mr. Michal Fidowicz. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Good morning, Jason and Dave. Thank you so much for having me and for the warm welcome. It's hugely appreciated.
Hey, it's a pleasure, Michael.
Did I get the pronunciation of your surname right?
You did.
Excellent.
I'm impressed. Thank you, Jason. Well done.
Listen, welcome, Mike. Thank you very much for joining us. We're big fans of your work, as you may have gathered by the invite that you received. I'll be honest, though, we have a lot of questions, right? I've got a lot of questions. Jason's got a lot of questions. So let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. For those that aren't aware of Candy Showroom yet, please, can you describe it in your own words and tell us exactly how it came about?
Yeah, so I've actually been running it this month for 10 years now, but it's gone through a few different iterations, right? They say it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, and out of nowhere, I seem to be getting some attention on the internet suddenly, so it's quite interesting. When I was a late teenager, I had a very strong interest in cars, and I wanted to be involved somehow. Mm-hmm. I was too young and too poor to have my own car. However, I could get a camera and I could attend car meets and car shows.
Right.
So I'd go along with a camera and I'd take pictures of car meets. And eventually I wanted to share those photos of car meets. Instagram wasn't so popular. Mm-hmm. Back then, everybody kind of spent time on internet forums. Yeah. So I would take my photos, edit them, write up a few captions and share them on forums. I figured it'd be cool to have my own website, so I made a website. Mm-hmm. And then I spent about 8 years trying to be a photojournalist. I had some mild success here and there, but nothing really groundbreaking. And then in December 2023, so about nearly a year and a half ago now, I got an email from a PR company and they said, hey, we have this car and we want to get it out to our audience. What you'd consider like modern day influencer marketing. Yeah. I had a very strong but small following, maybe about 20,000 people or so that I've built up over that 8 years.
This is on Instagram, is it? Essentially,
on Instagram, yeah. At that point, I've never been on camera before. And then
is that right?
Yeah, never. And the PR company said, "Hey, we need some people to make some reels with this," and I've never made a reel before. So I kind of said, "Well, thank you, but no thank you," because I don't know what I'm doing. And I cheekily said, "I can take some pictures of this."
I've yet to admit that. I've been at it 30 years.
I'll take some pictures for you guys of your car, because at the time that's all I wanted to be. I really wanted to be a very successful photographer. Yeah. And they basically told me to sod off.
And what was the car? Do you remember the first car that the PR company?
You know what? It was the Renault 5.
Was it?
It was the new Renault 5. The launch of that has been in the process by Renault for about a year and a half now. Because they originally reached out to me, and I think the idea was to get some people down to Paris and talk about it. But obviously they delayed that car, hence why it's only landed now. But yeah, I told some friends, and at the time I ran another online page called Mildly Interesting Cars of London, where I would share interesting cars that I find on the streets. But the big draw for that page was the copy, the caption for the post. Yeah. It was fully maxed out, so about 500 words, and there was a little story to go with every car. I ran that with a friend of mine, and we built up a good audience. So I think they saw that, they knew that I could write, and I think through that page, maybe they got a tip off about me, and they wanted to just see if I'm any good in front of a camera. Told some friends that I said no, and they all called me a moron. So they told me to just give it a go anyway. So yeah, I went along to a car event with my colleague now, Matthew, and we filmed me talking about cars at a car show. It was all very entry level, very kind of easy, amateur stuff. But yeah, the first video we made did really well on socials, and we figured that was a good enough excuse to make more. A year into it now, and everybody around me kind of suggested that I should try long form content. So 3 months ago, we made a YouTube channel, and that's taken off far quicker, and the numbers are far better than I could have ever imagined. So I think the people were right to suggest that I should try something longer.
Yeah, brilliant. So this fascination with cars, I mean, was that from a very young kid, or was it passed down from your parents, or?
So my parents love them to bits, but they don't know anything about cars.
Right.
My dad ignores all my car advice, even though I think I know what I'm talking about by now. No, I'm not really sure. There was a lot of video games when I was younger. I used to play a lot of video games. Car games were just very easy to understand, and I kind of enjoyed them. I enjoy the imagery of them. I enjoy the design. I like nice things in general, and I think a car is it's the second biggest purchase you make in your life. And from an early age, I understood that is going to be a huge part of your life, even here in London. So yeah, I'm not really sure exactly where it came from, but I know it's been around for a very long time, for a lot longer than I've been driving, of being an adult. And I used to really enjoy cycling my bike when I was a kid. I used to love being on the move, being on the road. It kind of all ties together.
Yeah.
So, if this isn't a too personal a question, is this a full-time job for you now, Mike? Or is this something that is essentially still a hobby? I mean, I'm just, again, without prying into your finances,
No, of course.
I'm trying to sort of work out, whether this is something that you have to do while you're also doing a day job, or how does it work?
Yeah. I still have a corporate job. I can't dive into too many details,
That's
annoyingly. But I
Do you know what it is? I worked out. He's a bloody spy. He's MI6. That's what it is.
Sexy. I wish it was that sexy. It's far from it.
That's with the exotic surname as well, Jason.
Well,
I think you've cracked it.
Yeah, he is. He's MI6 or MI5.
I do copy in my job as well, though. Part of my job is writing every day.
Okay.
So I guess I've always been writing since I was a teenager. I mean, I think I had to learn English at school, so it's a second language for me. And I think having an interest in learning a language, therefore, made me interested in using it as much as I could. It's cool. I just really enjoyed writing. Hence why I've always been writing, and my job does involve writing. I do that 4 days a week, so I have 3 days left of the week to produce anything to do with Candy. The dream is to be able to do it 7 days a week, and I think we're slowly getting there. But at this time and place right now, it's still a part-time job for me. But I don't really see it as a job, Candy. It's a hobby. I love doing it. It spawns as a hobby and as an interest, and you try to turn it into a business. You try to monetize it with time. So I guess I'm in that weird grey area now, where I'm trying to figure all of that out.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because technology. I've been doing car TV for 30 odd years now, and if I think back to where it was even 20 years ago, I mean, the cameras were huge things, and you needed staff But now the technology. I mean, you'll know this, but when I'm filming at fifth gear, we use GoPros a lot of the time to get interior shots, and everything's just easy to work with now. Editing software. So I think technology has really helped guys like you produce great content, and your stuff looks really well produced, actually.
Thank you. No, you're absolutely right. I've always had an interest in filmmaking, even whilst being a photographer. I used to make videos at car events. I think before I even took photos, I was interested in video, but I quickly learned, as you said, Jason, that camera work is very technical, very heavy, and very expensive. Unlike taking photos, that's the entry barrier for that is a lot lower. My biggest challenge when I was trying to make films was trying to get equipment that was cost effective and compact enough so I could bring it with me everywhere. Fast forward 10 years, and all the cameras we use are roughly the size of an iPhone. They're hilariously small, and as you noticed, the output is pretty pretty sharp. That the
Yeah.
quality is good enough so you can blow it up on a TV and watch it on your sofa in the evening in 4K. So yeah, that's made my life significantly easier. I mean, the equipment we use is just DJI cameras, but they marry up nicely with microphones as well.
Yeah.
So you have the two most important parts of making a film taken care of. You have good audio and good visual. The rest, it's totally up to you. And, you know, those two things allow you to get that across.
Well, do you know what? It's the one thing that actually, when you look on the comments on your videos on the YouTube channel, and the one thing that comes across in all of the videos from all the people that watch them is just about the production values. They all just kind of go, "This is really good." Like, you know, it genuine, and you know, not just saying it because you're here and blowing smoke or anything like that, but it looks proper. You know, the production values on it is good. It's well filmed. This is you and Matt, is it? Matthew?
Yeah. No, thank you. Yes, I mean, I've always had an interest in car TV. I grew up with it. Jason, people like you taught me how to speak English, right? When I was a kid, I was flicking through channels,
No way.
watching car films on the TV. That's how I picked up the language, right?
Oh, that's a really
I
nice
think
thing to say.
I have an interest in ensuring that my output is as high quality as what I grew up on. I have an interest in making things as polished as possible. I've been a user of YouTube since its infancy as well. I just love the internet. I love using it, and I see what people create on there, and I always think this could be a little bit better. That could be a little bit sharper. So me and my colleague Matt, yeah, we ensure that things are as high quality as they can be. Obviously, with a very limited budget. But it's fun. There's a lot of pride in having a high quality output, and I have no interest in lowering that or cheapening it in any way.
Well, here's a question for you, and I genuinely don't know the answer, and this is possibly sort of showing my age somewhat. But in terms of what you do at the moment with the channel, and obviously it started from nothing, you know, and has grown and is continuing to grow at a huge rate on YouTube. I know that the dream obviously is to make this a 7-day-a-week thing, and this is going to be your primary job, and this is what you do for a living. But is the dream to then transfer what you have created online into a televisual product, or would you prefer, or is it more advantageous for you to kind of stay where you are online and actually have that control and that ownership of what, I mean, exactly what are your viewpoints on stuff like that now? Because I would imagine it might be possibly different to what ours might have been 10 years ago.
You know what? I think it's a very interesting topic. I haven't quite figured out the answer to it. I think it's very contextual. If the right client and the right production team and the right channel or network came along, sure, I'd love to give it a go.
Yeah.
However, I have no interest in losing touch of the small but mighty audience I've already built up. And I see the potential in it. I mean, there's plenty of creators on YouTube that are making seriously, you know, loads of money, have very established businesses, and they've all spawned from YouTube and are still currently on YouTube. I love the idea now that I have gotten a bit of a following off the back of presenting and talking. I love the idea of being able to broaden my scope as like a broadcaster.
Yep.
I'd love to be able to chat about different things and kind of go to different places and not just focus just on cars. So for that, I probably would benefit from having a broadcaster or a channel or a network that might be interested in working with me, because starting that from scratch again on YouTube, that'd be difficult. I have a reputation and an audience for being somebody who talks about cars. I'm not sure how transferable that is over to other topics, but that's, I guess, where you have a bigger team around you to help you with that. I think at the moment, the main focus is to put out videos on a regular enough basis while maintaining a high quality on YouTube and seeing what comes along. But I will make sure that if any other bigger jobs come through, I'll make sure that the contracts allow me to still run Candy in the background. I'm not setting it up so, you know, there's like a weekly upload. If it's 3 good films a year, it's 3 good films a year. That's just the way it is. And if that means I get the chance to do other stuff, I'll take the other work as well, I guess.
So in terms of, I mean, me and Dave always say that, you know, passing your test is like a rite of passage. A, did you pass first time? And B, do you remember that feeling where, right, here we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got an interesting story about this. Yeah, I passed my test first time with only 2 minors. I was pretty happy with myself. I remember sweating buckets. I was shitting myself. It was so nerve-wracking. My driving instructor, he was very affordable, but because of that, I think he used to fall asleep on the lessons. So I'd just be in the car with him nodding off on the passenger seat, driving myself home. I actually drove the same car I passed my test in last weekend, which actually reminded me of all of that.
Really?
I totally forgot about the experience of passing your test and doing your test until last weekend. Yeah, I passed in a 6R Polo, like a 2014 one, I think. Yeah, great little car. I had a good time whizzing about in it, but it reminded me of my test. And I learnt in a diesel. And obviously the clutch situation in a diesel is just ever so slightly different to a petrol. So I learned in a diesel where you can basically pull away using just the clutch. And then I got in a petrol car and proceeded to stall it all the time until I realised that you got to spank the gas a bit. And I was just doing burnouts everywhere for the first week of driving my own car, which was great fun. But yeah, the feeling, it was immense, wasn't it? It's freedom.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere you want, especially because I had an interest in cars and my parents didn't necessarily have an interest in cars. They weren't interested in going having fun on the road or going anywhere car related. And these are things I could suddenly do on my own. I could put my mates in the back. We could have a good time, go anywhere we wanted. Yeah, it was absolutely magical. I'd love to experience that feeling again.
Well, do you know what I did for a magazine? I retook my test about 6 years ago.
Did you pass?
No, I didn't. No, no. But I'd failed within 500 yards because I got into a ruck with another motorist on a roundabout. Oh man! So it's amazing the bad habits you pick up over the years.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think everybody could say that. Anybody that's been driving for a significant amount of time. Funnily enough, I've actually just sort of been through this process. My niece has just been learning to drive and has just passed a test literally weeks ago, and we've sort of discussed this because she's obviously driving in a way that she's been totally prescribed to do by the current regulations, and then you kind of think, God, we don't drive like that, in terms of everything, in terms of where your hands are and what gear you're in and all sorts of different things.
They have to put their hazards on when they do anything now, like reverse or park or stop. Like the hazards always have to be
really
on. Yeah,
is that right?
I have a couple of friends that have recently passed, and it's bizarre. We pull up to a restaurant or something, and they put their hazards on to park into the parking bay. I don't do any of that.
No. I thought you'd normally just sort of put your, if you were parallel parking going in left, you put your left-hand winker on or subsequently right. I didn't know it was the
hazards.
Or like me, you don't use the winkers at all.
Just aim
because it's car language, isn't it? A bit like body language. Everybody knows, or they should know, what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
If I take the racing line round a roundabout, get out my way.
Absolutely. Jason's coming through. The other thing about your test at the moment, from what I can gather, is the fact that you can wait about a year to get it done. And also, you might go somewhere completely different to where you live. For example, right? So my niece, we live in Buckinghamshire, right, on the outskirts of London. And she took her test in a place called Newtown in mid-Wales, right? Because it was the only place that she could find within about a 6 or 7 month,
Is that
distance.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what happens. Apparently, people now travel literally hundreds of miles to actually go to somewhere to a test centre. So it's not a case of just going to your local one anymore. You can sort of travel to the other side of the country just because it might save you 4 or 5 months on the wait.
You can also proxy your way into the queue, so you can buy somebody's spot in the queue. If you don't want to wait the 6 months, you pay extra for somebody's spot who's already been waiting 6 months.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
what a racket!
By the way, that shouldn't happen because that's essentially just touting, isn't it? That's like ticket touts for concerts. It's the same sort of thing, and how that's not been outlawed, I don't know. Before we get into your car history, Michael, I've just got a quick bit of mid-show housekeeping to do. If you haven't already, please press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode, or you can press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. Sorry, Jason, you were going to say something.
And I was just going to say, I've got a dilemma coming up soon, actually, because my eldest daughter, Lena's 17 in April. So the big dilemma is, do I teach her to drive? I think not.
No.
I think not.
Don't do it.
Yeah, but she wants me to, and I'm like, I don't think that's a great idea.
My daughter was 17 last August, so she is in prime kind of learning to drive territory. However, so far, she hasn't shown an immediate interest in doing lessons or whatever like that. So I haven't had that question. But
Right.
I'm like you, whereby I've been driving for many, many years, and I consider myself to be a half decent driver. But I don't know whether I would be the right person to teach you. I don't know whether I've got the patience or whether we're too close. I mean,
Like you said, you get taught to pass a test more so than just to drive. I
Yes.
think paying a man who knows the regulation is
Yeah.
better than
I think
trying
you're
it
right.
yourself, and then
Yeah.
your kid fails, and then you have to pay extra for another test.
And all the arguments. I mean, the arguments would be hideous, wouldn't they? No, don't do this. I can imagine
you'll
it.
be telling your daughter to take the racing line around the roundabout, Jason.
Yeah.
And
Of
then
course
you
I
get
will.
angry at someone.
My mate is currently teaching his 17-year-old lad to drive, and he turned up for a pint after work last Friday, and he was shaking. He was a nervous
way.
wreck, and I said, "Where have you been?" He goes, "I finished work about 3," and he goes, "I've just taken Louis out for a couple of hours." He goes, "Honestly," he goes, "I've never been so uptight in my life." He goes, "It's just a complete lack of awareness, right? He knows what the pedals do, right? He understands all the mechanics of how the car moves and stops, but this just complete lack of awareness of what's going on around him and roundabouts or whatever." He goes, "Is absolutely terrifying." And so that's one of the reasons that I'm fearful of it.
Yeah. Same. And do you know what? I'm the worst passenger in the world. You know, having sat with that absolute fruitcake, great pal of mine, Tiffany Dell. I mean, genuinely, even though I know he's sublime, I don't like going. I don't like not being in control.
No,
I'd love to learn how to control being not in control in a car. That's one of my objectives for this year. I want to get some track time and learn how to go sideways, because I see you and your buddies, Jason, do it, and it looks like good fun.
It's a hoot. It's great fun. It's obviously incredibly skilled.
Yeah.
well, do you know what, Michael? I'm lucky enough. Many moons ago. Well, in fact, we did a couple, didn't we, for fifth gear?
We
did
did,
a couple of
yeah.
little sort of fifth gear sketches under different guises and different premises.
And the
one
bonnet
of them,
roll.
Pardon?
The bonnet roll on the Capri.
Yeah, well, one of them was the fact that they wanted to do a little thing based upon what your early car history is, which actually links very nicely to what I'm going to ask you in a minute. But anyway, this is a little aside. So they were asking people about first cars and early cars and stuff like that. And my early cars were a Ford Cortina and a Ford Capri, right? So they kind of thought, we know what the theme is here. We're going to go sort of down the road of the professionals and the old sort of 70s cop stuff and whatever, and Ford Capris and bonnet rolls, and we did this thing. But also, Jason, you had to teach me, if you remember, on the first one. This actually wasn't one I was thinking of, but on that first one, you had to try and teach me how to power slide.
drift.
And we went to Bruntingthorpe Aerodrome, I think, in Leicestershire.
That's right.
And we went up there, and we were trying to do a power slide. But the problem was there wasn't really enough beans in that car, was there? Because it was a 2-litre Capri. And you really had to get it right, because it wasn't like you could just, put your foot down and it would just, the back end would come out. So we had fun doing that. And a lot of it was me essentially sort of rolling around and doing the classic thing and then ending up 180 degrees the wrong way. That was the first one. But the better one was the one that we did at Rockingham, where the premise for that was that we were in an Aston. We're in a little baby Aston, right? And so the premise of that was that I was going to go and do a lap time around Rockingham, and then you were going to teach me how to reduce that lap time by about 5 seconds or something sort of fairly significant. As we did all that, we had this brilliant day. And then at the end of it, Mike, and this was actually the best bit, weirdly. I mean, much as I love driving the Aston, but the best part of the day was when the camera crew were sort of saying, right, we want to get some tracking shots, right? Now, for those of you that don't work in automotive TV like Mike and Jason, tracking shots are essentially where they film one car from the back of another car. So, you've got like a Range Rover with the cameras sticking out the back of it. So they had this, and they said to Jason on the walkie-talkie, right, can we get you coming down? I want you to go sideways like that, and then come sideways again and come and pass us on the right-hand side and whatever. And he's like, yeah, no problem. So I'm in the passenger seat. Jason's there with the walkie-talkie. He's doing all this one-handed. He's literally, the way that people park a car one-handed. He's going sideways around Rockingham, doing about sort of 70, completely like that. And it was just the best thing. And it was a day that I will never, ever forget, because I was just laughing. And it's that thing where you feel totally safe, because A, the person knows exactly what they're doing, but also B, unlike being in a car in a country lane with one of your idiot mates who's got something a bit flash, which is terrifying because a tractor or an old lady could come around the corner at any moment. You know you've got runoff. You know that Jason knows exactly what he's doing, and it was just the best day. I loved it.
It was fun, wasn't it?
Rockingham is gone now, isn't it?
Yeah.
R.I.P. Rockingham. It was a good track.
It's still there, but it's mothballed, and it's
a car park, isn't it, for Vauxhall, I think?
It is a car park, yeah. I mean,
shame.
It is a shame because it was, it's a great track. It was a great facility, but a bit of a strange one, really. Yeah. So, car history. Give us a rundown.
So I have the modern day equivalent of what we used to be just like the Ford history, right? So, but the modern day equivalent to that isn't Fords. It's 3 Series BMWs. Everybody in my age bracket who has an interest in BMWs, or in cars, sorry, has at some point owned a 3 Series or usually multiple. So my first car was a piece of shit. It was a Polo, but a really rotten one. It had no 5th gear because the gearbox blew up. Absolute misery of a car. Anyway, we glance over that. My first proper car, which I bought with my first proper paycheck, I bought myself a 3 Series, a redundant 318. N42 engine one, the facelift of the E46, Topaz Blue manual coupe. I was 19 at the time. That was the sexiest car you could own. It was so good.
Really cool car.
But because of the engine.
And did you put a paving slab in the boot? So that's a little trick.
All right,
put a paving slab in the boot, and it just holds the rear down because they're really lively on the rear, and that just helped it.
Yeah, good luck getting a 318 lively. That thing had about 12 brake horsepower. A paving slab would probably do the opposite of the desired effects. But yeah, I had that car for a couple of years, and actually I took care of the altitude thing because I modified it. I put some coilovers, I put some flashier wheels on it, and then I had that car for about 2 years. I loved it. It was amazing. But the engine was made of plastic and it was out of a pencil sharpener. It was rubbish, and it leaked oil everywhere. So eventually that car blew up. So I bought another one. And this time it was a touring, and I did the exact same thing to it. I lowered it, I put some flash wheels on it, and then that blew up. And then so I thought,
there's a common thread here, Dave.
There is definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
Don't know what you're on about. And then I figured I'd upgrade. So I bought a 5 Series.
Oh, right.
I bought an E39, a 2.5 litre diesel estate. God, that was a miserable car. The model is brilliant, and the way it felt and the material quality was lovely. But I bought the cheapest, baggiest one. Right. I always buy the cheapest, baggiest car. I think it's partly because I've never had any money, so I thought I'd try and become a YouTuber instead. How clever! And partly because I don't know, I like cheap, cheerful stuff. Anyway, that 5 Series blew up. I put that on some flashy wheels and coilovers again, and yeah, no, that blew up after about a year. I remember that car practically got stolen off me because a bunch of men came to buy it, and essentially manipulated me into giving that car to them for a very small amount of money. So yeah, I replaced that with a 7 Series though, an E38.
Oh wow, so you're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Going up the scale of size.
Although 90s BMWs, they're depreciated so badly, and this was before 2020, right? So the price of these cars was nothing. You could pick one up for 1,500 quid. I think my first BM was 1,700 quid. Then the second one was £500. The 5 Series was 700 quid, and then during the pandemic, I managed to put some money aside, so I spent a whole £1,700 on my E38. Okay. It was a mega car. Absolutely loved it. It was a 728. It was a facelift, so it had the facelift, the technical update M52 in it. Silky smooth engine, good on the run, and it's a 7 Series. It looks magnificent, and you feel the dog's driving it. And then the pandemic happened again, kind of, and I got a bit bored of driving about in a big car on my own. I figured, the roads are nice and empty. I lived not too far from some good driving roads at the time, and I was stuck in this 7 Series. It just wasn't ticking the boxes. So I sold it, and I bought another E46, this time a 330 Ci, 3 litre manual. Absolutely fantastic car. I'm currently on the hunt for one again now because I absolutely love them. They're brilliant cars.
So why? Sorry, what happened to the one that you had then? Why is that not with you?
Well, I may or may not have put it into a wall. Yeah, it was unfortunate. I learnt a lot through that whole experience, like a lot. But again, I think it's just rite of passage. Every young lad who has an interest in cheap, fast cars will end up putting a 3 Series through a wall. Yeah, luckily I made it out okay. Didn't hurt anybody. I got I got a slap on the wrist from the local constabulary, and I replaced that car with another 7 Series, so I have an E38 again. I bought that car totally by accident. I didn't look for it. It appeared on my Facebook Marketplace when I opened the app. I was actually on holiday when that car appeared, so I crashed my car, and 2 days later I was off on holiday. I was sitting in a cafe somewhere in Italy, and my girlfriend ran off to the cafe, and I was just on my phone scrolling, and the car appeared. I rang the guy on the spot, and I left a deposit. I landed in Heathrow, got a cab straight to his, and picked the car up.
So literally, in the length of time that it took your girlfriend to go to the loo or whatever, and then
Yes.
come back again, you bought another car.
They're very easy to buy, these 90s BMs.
Yeah,
They're very
yeah,
cheap, and once you know them, once you understand what to look for, it's so straightforward. They are just essentially big Lego for adults, in my opinion, and they're brilliant to drive, all of them. But yeah, so my car history is quite boring. It's just been 90s BMWs.
Well, it's not boring because it's sort of very different. Well, is it very different? Perhaps it's not.
No, it's not different. Everybody has 90s BMWs.
I tell you what, I'll be honest with you. It wasn't the early car history that I thought you were going to give us, because I thought that we were going to be talking polos and stuff like that, and I didn't think it was going to be that. But as you say, if you know what you're looking for, it needn't be. These are big cars that were big, expensive luxury cars in their day, but actually, because of the depreciation, you can pick those up for the same price you'd be buying a second-hand Fiesta or a Polo for.
The UK in the 90s, early 2000s was a pretty wealthy country, so we bought a lot of them. So there's a lot of them, which means the depreciation goes through the roof. And because they're right-hand drive, they can't get exported into mainland Europe. So, we have a surplus of them here, which means the prices are very cheap and it's quite easy to find an okay one.
I guess the downside, though, is that when things do need fixing on them, that's when it's expensive. I had a 535i until recently, and I got rid of it. I love that car.
Which generation?
It was the F10.
Okay.
It was the F10. It was a 2011 535i. I loved it. It was a sport and everything. It looked great. It had great wheels on it. But it was just that thing whereby, water pump went on me. It's nearly £1,000, and there's £250 a corner on the tyres.
Yeah.
Discs and pads front and back was going to be about £1,500, and I realised I was approaching £3,000 just on basic stuff. And I just thought, this is only going to get more and more expensive as time goes on. But it was a real wrench, because I love that car.
Yeah, they can get real expensive really quickly. Yeah, you have to really love it to maintain it.
Yeah, you do. And that's the thing. And I just kind of thought, unfortunately, I'm not in the financial situation to actually be able to just go, well, that car's going to cost me however many £1,000 a year, and just almost put it to one side, because I just wasn't in that situation. But I do love those cars, and there's a bit of nostalgia there as well. My dad was always into Beamers as well years ago. I remember there's a picture of me as a little boy on the bonnet of his 2002, which was a beautiful car. He had a white one of those that was gorgeous, and then he had this 530 Beamer years ago, a G-Reg, that we went all around Europe in. So there's a bit of there's a bit of BMW lineage with me as well. But and Jason, of course, you've got BMW past running through your veins, because wasn't your dad a dealer principal for BMW?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, when I was at school. Yeah, he would come home in a different car every night. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I've got fond memory. In fact, I can remember going to the 1976 British Grand Prix in a 635
CSI
E24
CSI,
lovely
CSI in a like a rusty brown colour, and I can remember the aircon, because aircon was pretty primitive back in those days. I can remember it blowing ice or frost out of the vents And that's just stuck in my head.
Amazing. I mean, aircon was very much a luxury still going into the 90s.
Yeah.
My E38 has aircon, and if you look at the spec sheet, it was the most expensive optional extra on that car. It was like 1,500 quid. It's more than a telephone in the center console. So, yeah, it's quite a posh thing.
Also, I remember I was a bit younger then. I remember getting nicked, or my dad getting nicked at Selby Fork on the A1 in a 3.2 CSL Batmobile race car.
Amazing.
Okay.
That was a road car, but hadn't been then converted to go on the track.
Yeah,
and we got nicked doing 120 mile an hour, and the coppers let us off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they went, "What's this?" They wanted to have a look around the car.
Yeah.
So
what's the motoring itch then? What's the dream car then, Mike? If you kind of were to fast forward maybe 5 years, the YouTube channel has become a huge sensation. You're now doing this full time. People are throwing cars at you left, right, and centre. What do you want to be seen in?
Hey, if it only takes 5 years, I'll be a very fortunate man. It's really hard to pick a dream car, isn't it? Because I think if you're into it, you kind of like everything. I'm genuinely keen to try a Renault 5 the same way I'm keen to try, I don't know, a Ferrari, right? I don't know, straight off the bat, I really like 996s. The only issue with a 996 is they're quite boring and everybody seems to have one. It's like the car of choice for anyone who likes fast road driving because they're the cheapest Porsche you can buy, and they are actually quite nice cars to be in. I don't know, a yellow 996 Turbo would be pretty cool, although I think that'll take a bit more than 5 years of YouTube. Although I'll be honest, I'm very, very happy with my E38. I've always wanted one. It's my second one because that's how much I like them.
Yep.
I'm not really driven by this thing of needing to have a certain dream car. I know it's quite a boring answer. My apologies, but
It's not boring.
yeah, I don't know. 996 springs to mind. I'd also love to buy a brand new M car. That was my huge thing when I was a kid. I used to dream of owning like an E36 or an E46 M3 from new. Obviously, can't do that anymore. Modern day M products is very different to what I grew up with from the 90s, early 2000s. I think the M2 is the last free pedal rear-wheel drive full ICE engine car M car you can buy today in the UK. They still have the manuals in Europe, but we don't get them here for some reason. So I think that is my last opportunity to get a original recipe M product.
Yeah.
I actually had one on loan recently. It was brilliant. Way too fast though for the road. Like there's just no need for it to go that quick. Brilliant car, but again, I'm now limited to just a single option, whereas I dreamt of having a whole choice of options. So yeah, I guess that modern day interpretation of my dream is slightly different to what it used to be. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Let's just go with 996 Turbo, a yellow one. Because it's nice and flashy, and I think yellow's a cool car. Yellow is the fastest colour, by the way. It's quicker than red on any car.
I disagree. I think anthracite grey is the gunmetal grey is the fastest colour.
Actually, yeah. That is pretty incognito, that one. You don't expect those cars to be quick.
Got to be dirty on it, just on the sills. I don't like clean cars. Do you like clean cars, Dave?
Well, I tend to be clean inside and dirty outside, by the way, and that sounds like my kind of profile statement, but it's not. It's no. I do. I tend to not wash my car enough, but I'm quite particular inside. Not to the point about, but I'm not one of these people that could have, I don't know, an empty plastic bottle rolling around or crisp packets on the floor.
Oh, aren't you?
No. I can't do any of that.
It needs to be, the car needs to be peppered in flies. They look best after they've just spent 6 hours crossing Europe in the middle of summer on a hot day, right?
I'm all over that. I like the whole thing about it looking sort of well worn on the outside, but inside, no. When you get in and there's just packets and no, I can't deal with that. I'd have to. I've done it before actually when I've borrowed my mum's car when mine's been in the garage, and I've got in the car and I've driven down the road, and within 2 minutes I've had to pull over somewhere into a lay-by and get out and work out what the hell is rolling around in the back, in the boot, and all this kind of stuff. It's not for me. Interesting thing you say about the 996, Mike, is the fact that in my experience of knowing the likes of Jason and a few other, professional drivers, racing drivers, their car of choice, much as they get cars on loan, but the cars that they tend to buy and drive themselves tend to be Porsches. Jason, why?
Because
Is that
it's
trendy?
no, it's the best piece of kit on the road. You know, they go like stink. They feel beautiful in your hands. The steering on all of them is sublime. They're quick. Everything works. It's very Germanic. They don't go wrong. And do you know what? They all look very similar. So you can be striping around in a 911 Turbo S like I have for many, many years. And no one really knows it's a Turbo S. Yeah. It's just a Porsche. Whereas, you know, you jump in a Ferrari, you know, I've been lucky enough to own one of those many, many years ago, a 355. People hate you. They hate you in it. And
They do, yeah.
and they get scratched. You know, they get keyed. Mine got keyed. But 911s, they just cut through the mustard. And also, it's a proper 4-seat car, i.e. there's a lady bench in the back. What's not to like?
Excellent. Yeah. I used to take photos for a supercar-ish dealership for a good few months. I got to try like most variants of the 911 from the original to the modern one. They're all brilliant. They're all absolutely fantastic. And it's interesting what you say about people treating you differently on the road in different cars. I had a Flying Spur press car last summer. It was bright white with carbon accents everywhere. Not the way I'd have it, but I had it anyway, and not a single person wanted to let me out. They look at you like you're bizarrely. They look at you like you're scum. I think it's because I'm a young guy in a flashy car. People hate that. Whereas the 911, like you say, they kind of blend into the background, especially if you get an anthracite grey one covered in shit. Then it's just another car in the street.
All of mine have been pretty much anthracite grey or slate grey, or I think it's slate grey is the one.
I think also what we're talking about here is without getting too far off the subject, is actually something which is inherently British though as well. I'm not sure that same attitude exists in other parts of the country, other parts of the world rather. Certainly in America, you know, where they applaud success and whatnot, and they're like, you know, wow, look at the car and stuff like that. Whereas in this country, there's an inherently British thing, and it's sort of based upon, I don't know, is it jealousy? Is it all sorts of, you know, deep inbuilt things? But that thing, as you say, Mike, is that if you're a young guy in a flash car and you're there, and, you know, most people will drive past kind of thinking, I'm not going to let you out. You look like a dick. Get it.
Yeah, well, I guess there is a whole thing about Brits being, you know, it's a very elegant and conservative with a small C nation. It's not a very flashy. We're not flashy people, so I guess there is that. Yeah. It is interesting. Although I enjoy seeing flashy stuff out and about. I'm based in London. I see it every day, and I'm genuinely intrigued by it. Nothing interests me more than a bloke who specs his Bentley in bright yellow. Like, I want to go chat to him. I want to see what it's about and why he's done that. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
He'd be a fruitcake, anyone who did that.
Yeah.
Off the rocker.
Where are you with electric cars, Mike? Because you strike me as somebody who's actually quite vintage in their general style. I mean, just in your sort of general look and persona, and in terms of the cars that float your boat, you're going for stuff that actually predates you and is older than your age is. But where are you on electric? Could you ever see yourself in something like that, or does that repulse you?
Yeah, of course. No, it doesn't repulse me at all. I like old and vintage things. I like the imagery attached with it. I kind of grew up seeing that when I was a kid, so it's interesting. It's cool to me. But electric cars on the whole, I absolutely love them. I'm very much a modernist, you could say, in my approach towards propulsion and kind of, you know, the movement and travel of humans. It really interests me. I think electric cars, there's a whole lot of amazing potential there. I think the headline this morning was that BYD just released a new model that charges in 5 minutes flat.
Oh,
so
wow.
that instantly removes people's biggest problem with them, right? And you know, all it takes is for one manufacturer to invent that technology, and by the end of this year, it'll be spread to everyone. It's just the way it works. I think they're brilliantly quiet. They're very comfortable for the most part. I mean, it's car by car basis, right? Some EVs suck, but they wouldn't be any better if they had an if they had an internal combustion engine in them. They would still be boring and miserable, right? I find it funny. People's main arguments about EVs is that they're boring or they don't have any personality. It's like, well, that's the problem with that isn't down to the propulsion method. A miserable 3-cylinder 1 litre EcoBoost thing isn't going to make that car any sexier or more exciting than it already is, right? I think there's some brilliant electric cars out there. I had an i7 for a bit. I thought that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant piece of kit. And that platform, for example, a large luxury car, it suits an EV powertrain because they're not designed to be sporty. They're designed to be quiet and peaceful, and that's what an EV powertrain offers. I had a go in an Ioniq 5N, other end of the spectrum. Again, I thought the manual paddles were kind of engineered and mapped in a very interesting way, which was actually really, really fun to use. So it goes to show, it is possible to make electric cars fun. I appreciate it feels a little bit more artificial. Whether you like it or not, you're not going to get a modern car that feels like a 205 GTI, and that's regardless if it's electric or petrol powered. So I think that the main gripes people have of them isn't that it's electric. I think people have a gripe with modern cars as a whole. I think they'd use the EV aspect as a scapegoat to vent their frustrations about modern cars. But you're bound to get that. In the past, not every car was exciting. People weren't excited over like a Nissan Sunny, for example. It was still just a run-of-the-mill EcoBox, right?
Yeah.
Hey, here's a question for you. We ask this question to all of our guests, and that is music and cars, we think, go particularly well together. So imagine you're on a fancy drive. Where are you? Where are you going? What you're listening to, and most importantly, what you're driving.
I wouldn't say I've experienced too many amazing drives in my life yet, right? So I can't think of somewhere super exotic. But if you take the northeastern way around the coast of France to get to Paris, from Calais to Paris, some fantastic roads through there, really amazing roads. So let's go down to Paris. I love being in the city. I love London and I love Paris. There's one of my two favourite places. So I'll go from one to the other. I'll pick a sunny day, obviously, where it's dry. And let's just say I'm in a 996. I had a very similar experience a couple of years back. I loved it. I'd love to do it again. Song-wise, Inner Smile by Texas. It's my favourite song. I love it.
Nice.
And I don't know why I love it. I think it came on when I had my first kind of experience in a posh car, and it's just stuck since.
That's the thing with music, isn't it? Music and its memories. And actually, in all of the episodes that we've done in 10 series of this podcast, nobody has ever said that song. So that's good.
No,
We get a lot of the same sort of, we get things like, we get the Eagles and whatever, and Bruce Springsteen and these kind of driving songs, but no one's ever said Texas. So I like that.
Yeah. Well, when your peak moment in a car, right, it isn't necessarily going to be when you're driving at 10 temps, focusing on an apex or something. It might be for you guys. It isn't for me. My peak moment will be actually appreciating the environment I'm in, windows down, sun shining. For that, you want something happy. You don't want AC/DC or whatever.
Well, it sounds pretty perfect and pretty happy and pretty Bond to me, Jason. And I think on that note, you need to take us out.
Well, that's it for this week's Fueling Around, powered by Adrian Flux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help save you money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance. Thank you, Dave, as always, but a huge thanks to our special guest this week, Mr. Mike Fidowicz, a.k.a. Candy Showroom.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Don't forget to press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode, or you can press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Thanks for listening, peeps, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ra.